At 12, the news at noon starts right now.
Well, good afternoon. Thanks for joining us this Monday on October 7th.
Yeah, we want to start real quick because of the hurricane coming, Hurricane Milton. We know that there's big viewership out there looking at that, but we do want to make sure that we know, Mia, that is not going to affect us here at home.
No, it's not going to affect Texas. And we'll get you a look at Hurricane Milton, which is now a strong, powerful Category 5 hurricane in the southwestern Gulf coming up in a little bit. That's going to be headed towards Florida over the next couple of days. But back here at home, it's actually going to be quite the opposite. We are actually expecting a quiet weather pattern to take over for the most part, but we are still going to be dealing with toasty afternoons, highs in the mid-90s over the next couple of days. And that's where we are right now, upper 80s and low 90s closer to San Antonio, 82 in Bernie, 83 over in Kerrville. Plenty of sunshine expected this afternoon. There's that forecast high temperature right around 95. Winds will generally be sustained out of the northeast at about 5 to 15 miles per hour. A few gusts upwards of 20 will certainly be a possibility. Record challenging territory tomorrow and into Wednesday as those highs still sit warmer than average in the mid-90s. At least mornings will trend cooler by midweek as we start to see some drier air work in. Lows back to the low to mid 60s, so a little bit more of a fall-like feel for a few hours, especially after the sun comes up. And yes, Hurricane Milton continues to strengthen over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. No impacts to Texas are expected, but storm surge, high winds, and flooding concerns are all expected across parts of the Florida Peninsula. We'll have the latest on where that system is and where it's headed coming up a little bit later on.
All right, thank you, Mia. New at noon, the Supreme Court upholding a lower court's order that bars Texas hospitals from performing emergency abortions. The Biden administration had asked the justices to throw out that order, arguing that hospitals have to perform abortions in emergency situations under federal law. The administration also cited a Texas Supreme Court ruling that said doctors do not have to wait until a woman's life is in immediate danger to provide an abortion legally. The High Court did not provide its reasoning, and there were no noted dissents.
Well, San Antonio's fire union has officially announced its opposition to a charter amendment that would undo caps on the city manager position that it pushed for 6 years ago. A 2018 charter change capped the city manager's salary at 10 times the lowest paid city employee and their time in the role to just 8 years. The idea won the support of 59% of voters. However, the business community has wanted to roll back the caps ever since they were passed. They have the chance this year with Proposition C. So the union's original campaign came amid a years-long contract battle with the city. Though it now has a new contract and a better relationship with city management, the union's president says it is a matter of principle to keep the caps in place. Well, former John Jay High School student charged with murder had his trial begin this morning.
Jesus San Miguel is accused of fatally stabbing another John Jay student last year during a lunch break. Our Erica Hernandez is at the Justice Center and is joining us live right now. So Erica, tell us about opening arguments this morning.
Yeah, Courtney, it was two different versions of what apparently happened back on April 4th, 2023. While the state is saying this was an unfair fight amongst friends, the defense is saying this was all self-defense. Now, according to those opening arguments, Joshua Kinnaman wanted to fight his friend Jesus San Miguel and had been looking for him for days. During a lunch break, the two were at the restaurant with other friends across the street from John Jay High School. When Kinnaman approaches San Miguel, he said, "Let's fight," which the state says San Miguel agreed with. Prosecutors say after Kinnaman pushes San Miguel outside and swings at him, San Miguel took out a knife and stabbed Kinnaman once, killing him. As for the defense, they say that San Miguel was trying to walk away and de-escalate the situation and had every right to defend himself.
He is bum rushed and attacked by this guy about to throw a haymaker. That's deadly force. For them to tell you it's not is not true.
Now, the state says friends of both of the teens will testify, and there will also be surveillance footage of that incident shown to the jury. And later this week, the jury will decide if this is self-defense or not. San Miguel faces up to life in prison if he is found guilty. We'll have more on this trial and testimony heard today later this afternoon. Live at the Cadena Reeves Justice Center, Erica Hernandez, KSAT 12 News.
Thank you, Erica. To politics now. If you're planning on voting in the November election, then heads up, this is your last day to get registered to vote.
And it is easy to register. You can submit your voter registration application in person at the Bexar County Election Department office on Frio Street. The department is also extending its hours ahead of the deadline. However, the elections officials say that you have to get your application in a little sooner in order for it to count.
The deadline is 5 p.m. 5 p.m. on October the 7th. People may mail in their voter registration cards and have them postmarked by 5 p.m. on that date. That's the drop dead date, October the 7th. They can hand carry them in. They can be mailed in.
Once you're registered, you can vote early or wait for Election Day, which is November 5th. Early voting starts October 21st and runs through November 1st, and that does include the weekend. Registered voters can vote at any polling site during the early voting period. All right, innovations in safety both on the football field and the field of battle being made right here in San Antonio. Still ahead, Devin Karp tells us how the Alamo City is leading the way in helmet technology.
And still coping with the damage of Hurricane Helene, learn how people in Florida are bracing for round 2 as Hurricane Milton barrels toward the state.
And a somber anniversary today. Learn how the world is marking the 1-year anniversary of the October 7th Hamas terror attacks in Israel and how the local Jewish community is coming together.
Today marks 1 year since the devastating Hamas terror attacks that began the most recent war between Israel and the terrorist organization.
It was the deadliest terrorist attack on Israeli soil ever, killing more than 1,200 Israelis, including 30 Americans. ABC's Jay O'Brien shows us how the world is marking this somber anniversary.
A grim anniversary, 1 year since the gruesome October 7th Hamas terror attack on Israel that left more than 1,200 people dead, men, women, and children killed in their homes.
The terrorists, they brought a digger and they started breaking the window of the safe room.
And a music festival turning from joy to panic. Israelis pausing Monday to remember the fallen.
This is where she was. This is where she was happy in the last her moments.
Aviva Siegel and her husband Keith, an American, were among those more than 250 hostages taken by Hamas. Aviva was freed in a November ceasefire deal, but Keith is one of those more than 100 hostages still missing. Aviva spoke to ABC's Matt Gutman.
What were your parting words to Keith?
I looked at him in the eyes and I said, Keith, you be strong for me and I'll be strong for you.
Hostage families demanding the Israeli government prioritize returning their loved ones. As that war ignited on October 7th rages on and Israel tries to dismantle Hamas. The Hamas-run health ministry says more than 40,000 people, many civilians, have been killed in the fighting in Gaza, an area now unrecognizable. And that region forever changed. Israel now locked in another conflict with a different Iranian-backed terror group, Hezbollah, in Lebanon to Israel's north, which has mounted attacks in solidarity, it says, with Palestinians. After months of cross-border fire, Israel now conducting extensive airstrikes on Hezbollah targets, including new strikes this weekend.
All of this as Israel is still weighing how to respond to that Iranian missile attack late last week. The Israeli defense minister is coming here to Washington in the next few days to meet with Pentagon leaders. Jay O'Brien, ABC News, Washington.
And there are October 7th memorials all over Texas. The Jewish Federation of San Antonio hosting one this evening. It will be from 6:30 to 8:30 p.m. at Temple Bethel to honor those lost, acknowledge those still in captivity, and embrace hope for peace in the future. Community members of all faiths and walks of life are invited to attend.
Here at home, let's look out there with live cam. Already 88 degrees this afternoon, but I think, Mia, we were talking about how powerful the shade can be if you can find some.
Yes, most definitely. And once we get some drier air in place, that's headed our direction this week as well. It's going to make it feel even more comfortable out there, but afternoons are still going to be toasty. Unfortunately, we don't have any notable rain chances in the forecast over the next 7 days. We definitely need them. The aquifer is down over half of a foot this Monday at 628.8. And in terms of the pollen count, ragweed is still in the moderate category at 160. Molds are also present, but they are low. We're going to have another full check at your local forecast here at home, plus, of course, Hurricane Milton in the southwestern Gulf after the break.
Well, the state of Florida bracing for a 1-2 punch as Hurricane Milton heads their way.
The storm continues to gather immense strength and is forcing more evacuations. That's just weeks after the region had to deal with Hurricane Helene. Here's ABC's Jim Ryan with the latest on how Floridians are bracing for the worst.
Florida is under threat from Hurricane Milton just 11 days after Helene hit the same coast. Residents are filling up sandbags, preparing for the worst as the storm gains strength in the Gulf of Mexico.
I'm out here to fill up my sandbags. I didn't do it last time. Water got up into our driveway, and I don't want it to happen.
The entire Florida peninsula on the Gulf side could have a major impact. 51 counties are now under an emergency order. Forecasters are predicting record-breaking storm surge of 8 to 12 feet. That's higher than Helene's record-breaking storm surge of 6 to 8 feet.
If you are somebody that is in a very vulnerable part of the west coast of Florida that would be susceptible to storm surge, you certainly can leave now. You don't have to wait to get an evacuation order.
The governor has ordered landfill sites to stay open 24/7. ABC's Ginger Z is in Reddington Shores.
I'm standing on a street, one of so many here around Tampa Bay, that still is lined with debris up and down. I mean, they have not been able to not only take a breath or a rest, they're exhausted, but they haven't been able to clean up.
Danny Pownell's home and most of his rental properties were destroyed less than 2 weeks ago, and he's worried about Milton.
And we don't know what this storm is going to do. That might be a 1-2 punch to take out this property.
FEMA, already on the ground responding after Helene, is now preparing for Milton.
We're working with the state EOC to understand what their requirements are going to be so we can have those in place before it makes landfall.
FEMA is at work in other areas hit by Helene. President Biden has ordered an additional 500 active duty troops to North Carolina to help with recovery. And the White House says he is closely monitoring the track of Milton. Jim Ryan, ABC News, Dallas.
And I know we've been talking about here at home. I mean, we haven't seen the rain. Of course, we don't want it to that extent.
Right.
But it has been a little drought here in our area.
Yeah, I know. And Mia, we were talking about the aquifer. Like, it's just been
We definitely will take some rain chances. Of course, we never like to deal with hurricane force winds, the storm surge, or anything like that. So we are going to continue to monitor Milton very closely if you have friends, family out in the Sunshine State, because this is a powerful Category 5 hurricane now, as of the 11 a.m. update in from the National Hurricane Center. So right off the bat, again, Texas is not going to experience any impacts from Milton, but take a look at sustained winds now, up to 160 miles per hour. It's picked up speed ever so slightly, right now working to the east-southeast at about 9 miles per hour. But as we zoom in and take a look at the satellite imagery here, you can see really over the past couple of hours, it started to develop more of that eye. So the structure continues to organize as it heads towards the far northern coastline of the Yucatan Peninsula. And the waters in the Gulf of Mexico are in the low to mid 80s, so that is definitely warm enough to help sustain Milton. It is expected to continue in that Category 5 strength into tomorrow morning as well. Then it works its way farther up to the north. By Wednesday, it is expected to weaken ever so slightly into a Category 4 hurricane, potentially weakening a little bit more, but still a very dangerous storm headed for the state of Florida. Right now, landfall is looking possible possible right near the Tampa Bay area by Wednesday evening before it pushes across the Florida peninsula and then moves out into the western Atlantic by Thursday morning and into Friday. So high winds expected along with flooding concerns and even storm surge. Take a look at the projected peak storm surge across the Florida Gulf coastline from Spring Hill down to Tampa, 5 to 10 feet possible. Tampa down to Fort Myers, 8 to 12 feet. On top of that, of course, the flooding concerns just from rain itself. By the time all is said and done, it is looking very possible that parts of the Sunshine State see rainfall totals up to 5 to even 10 inches in localized locations. So we will continue to keep you posted with the latest developments on Milton over the next several days. But back here at home in San Antonio and much of the Lone Star State, we are expecting the exact opposite. Plenty of sunshine, no rain chances, unfortunately, in the forecast, and still record challenging heat. We've got a forecast high around 95 today. The record actually is 99, so we will be well below that. But Tuesday and into Wednesday, record challenging territory with highs still in the mid-90s, potentially climbing by a degree or two. At least we will start to see some cooler mornings return to the forecast. That is all going to be thanks to drier air that's working back in. That's what helps us with these large temperature swings from the morning and into the afternoon. There's actually a weak frontal boundary draped across far north Texas. Behind it, this browner color, that is some of that drier air that's going to be working its way farther off to the south over the next couple of days. And again, where you are really going to notice that are those morning low temperatures. Still above average tomorrow, upper 60s to kickstart our Tuesday, but mid 60s are back in the forecast by the middle portions of this week, and potentially some low 60s by Friday and into the upcoming weekend, maybe even a few degrees below average for this time of year. So if you are wanting more of that fall-like feel, I wish I could say that you would find that into the afternoons, but we're just not there yet. At least we will see, though, a more refreshing and pleasant feel to step out to in the mornings, especially later on this week, guys.
We deserve something.
We certainly do at this point.
Something. Give us
bit.
the mornings. All right. Thanks.
Thank
Mia.
you. Well, experts in San Antonio are making both contact sports and our troops safer with the latest in helmet technology. Our Devin Karp shows us their work next.
And the boys are back at it again. Up next in sports, we'll show you the best moments from last night's game against Pittsburgh.
Well, new this afternoon, we are learning of an incident in Converse where a 1-year-old child was badly mauled by a group of dogs.
Those dogs are the family pets and live in that home. This is all according to the Bexar County Sheriff's Office, which says that child is in very bad shape right now. BCSO tells us the incident happened at this home on Spruce Ridge Drive in Converse. They say the 1-year-old was at home with a 13-year-old sibling. That's when deputies say the dogs got aggressive and attacked the child. The 1-year-old suffered serious injuries to their face and head. The 13-year-old was also hurt when trying to stop the attack.
So here's a look at the scene just moments ago. Bexar County Animal Control were seen removing 3 dogs from the home on Spruce Ridge Drive in Converse. Officers were also seen leading one person away from the home in handcuffs. We are still waiting on more information from the sheriff's office.
All 3 dogs have been removed from the home by animal control. That owner being questioned right now. Deputies say they aren't sure if the owner will be facing charges.
Again, deputies say the owner, it was the family of that 1-year-old, has been cited before for their dog's behavior, but they were not removed from the home at that time. Well, researchers in San Antonio are working to make athletes and soldiers safer by creating new technologies for padded helmets.
UTSA and the Southwest Research Institute have formed the team that is taking a new approach to stopping traumatic brain injuries. Devin Karp sat down with them to learn more about the new technology and how it can help.
These helmets might look like something you'd see in any locker room, but it's what's inside of them that counts.
Like if I compress it very slowly, it deforms. If I hit it, it also deforms.
This team of researchers has been working for the last year and a half to find a new way to protect football players and soldiers from traumatic brain injuries.
And you don't even have to travel that far from the football field or to the battlefield to test an impact like this.
70% of traumatic brain injury remains undiagnosed. Like people are getting hit in the head in contact sports, in military settings, but they don't show any symptoms, and that's going to affect later in their life.
Dr. Morteza Sadie says this team has a background in mechanical engineering, looking at the problem through impact forces and high-velocity hits. They can simulate and test damage from any angle.
Here we have the head, you have the helmet, you have the neck, and the impactor.
Using specially designed and structured 3D printing material, Sadie says this technology is stopping the brain from moving inside the skull during games.
If I compress it slowly, it deforms and it recovers, slower. When I hit it, it's rock solid, right? And there's something in between, right?
1, 2, 5.
The Southwest Research Institute has been working with UTSA on the project, developing it into a defense solution to help soldiers.
It lets us protect the people that are protecting us better. Just because a helmet stops a bullet or stops someone's skull from touching the ground doesn't mean that person still can't get a brain injury.
And while the project is years away from being in the NFL or college games, Sadie says it's his personal passion to take it to the high school level.
Most of the time it's overlooked because there's less money there, but it's the most important part. Like these young people, they play and they get concussion, they have to live with the consequences for the rest of their life, and to reach their full potential, it's really important to take care of their safety and well-being.
I'm Devin Karp, KSAT 12 News.
Well, as you know, a lot of people woke up tired this morning thanks to this game over here. Dallas Cowboys taking on the Pittsburgh Steelers in a very late game last night.
Yeah, but most people stayed up for it. The boys were delayed 90 minutes because of weather. And of course, in typical Cowboys fashion, they had to keep their fans biting their nails all the way to the end. Pittsburgh scored with about 3 minutes left to play. But in a scoring drive, Dak Prescott hit Jalen Tolbert with a 4-yard touchdown with 20 seconds remaining. That barely pushed the Cowboys, slipped past the Steelers 20-17.
Well, that game finished just after midnight, and the Cowboys are now 3-2 and won their second straight after Dak overcame a mistake-filled night. So Prescott threw for 352 yards with 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions, and a fumble. However, he also recovered a fumble on the last drive, which kept the Cowboys' hopes alive, and they win a big one in the Steel City.
Meanwhile, Bills at Texans this weekend marked the first time in franchise history that the Texans helmet didn't have their traditional bowl on the side.
And it was the first time the letter H was painted at midfield, part of their new look for this season. Well, first quarter, 3-0 Bills when Cam Akers gets the call. He takes it in 15 yards for the Texans touchdown. First play of the next drive, C.J. Stroud unloads deep to Nico Collins, and that's a 67-yard touchdown. However, after that score, Collins went to the locker room and was ruled out for the rest of the game with a hamstring injury. Late in the game, the Bills tied up at 20 points each.
But Kaimi Fairbairn drills the 59-yard walk-off field goal, his third of the game, as the Texans hang on to win their third game at home this season. Texans 23, Bills 20. Houston improves to 4-1.
San Antonio Spurs are giving back to the community before hitting the court tonight. Our Devin Karp will show us what they're up to in your next half hour.
And the grand opening for a neighborhood park on the north side is coming soon, honoring the life of a young boy. Patty Santos tells us about Mitchell's Landing next.
Well, new this afternoon, a missing high school student has been found on the far west side, according to the Bexar County Sheriff's Office.
15-year-old Peyton Rutledge has been missing since last Friday. She was last seen leaving Brennan High School, which is near Wiseman Boulevard in far west Bexar County. Bexar County officials say she's been located and safely returned to her parents. There's no word on where she was found or what caused her disappearance.
And it's like that ever-changing weather here at home. I mean, you start off and it's pretty cool. So I was like trying to will fall to happen, and I had like a fallish outfit. But then this afternoon, I was out on the story. I was like, oh my goodness, I'm really breaking a sweat here.
It's a little misleading, and it's going to be like that later this week. You know, you walk outside and it's low humidity, and it is a little cool. You kind of feel that taste of fall in the air, and then into the afternoon, that dry air just allows your high temperatures to warm up very quickly. Plenty of sunshine, and 90s still in the forecast for the the foreseeable future. Speaking of which, we are already in the low 90s in a few locations. This lunchtime hour, it's 92 out east in Gonzales, 90 degrees on the dot over in New Braunfels, up by 35. Still holding on to some 80s, especially up into the hill country. 82 in Bernie, 84 over in Kerrville. Now this afternoon, we are expecting high temperatures to climb into the low to mid 90s for many of us. The average high for this time of year is around 85 degrees in San Antonio, so we will be about 10 degrees above that in the Alamo City, low 90s across portions of the hill country. And again, it's not really going anywhere. In fact, we could actually see those highs build by a degree or two over the next couple of days. Record challenging heat still in the forecast, but at least low temperatures will trend cooler and more pleasant, especially by Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday, thanks to that drier air, clear skies overnight, helping those lows fall into the low to mid 60s. So we'll have another check at that full forecast, plus talk about what else is going on in the Atlantic Basin, speaking of the tropics, coming up a little bit later on.
Thank you, Mia. Well, the grand opening for a neighborhood park on the north side is now just 2 months away.
A family's heartbreak inspired this inclusive park to honor Mitchell Chang. He was just 3 years old when he drowned in 2018. Patty Santos catches us up on the progress of the park that's keeping his name alive.
It is November 30th at 10 a.m. We are having a huge celebration here at Class and Stephen Ranch Park in Mitchell's Landing, and we want everyone to come and celebrate with us.
You heard it, San Antonio families. Mitchell's Landing finally has an opening date.
We're not even setting up like a ribbon cutting. We're doing it like a ribbon tying because it's our community that brought this together and built this playground.
Hiccups with permits and construction delayed the 2023 opening. April Chang says it's all hands on deck on the finishing touches.
Gosh, this is amazing.
Isn't it? Oh, it is. It really is.
It makes me want to go out and play.
It's a magical space inspired by her late son, Mitchell Chang, who drowned in 2018. The 3-year-old loved pirates. The park started out as a tribute, but in this journey, April's discovered a greater need.
It no longer became a representation of Mitchell, but more just a good that he's doing for families. And that's amazing.
The park has unique features specifically geared to making this space inclusive for children with different needs. April is making sure it goes beyond the American with Disabilities Act standard.
So what makes it inclusive?
Okay, so lots of things can make a play component inclusive that people don't realize. For example, like this spinner here. Rapid spinning actually really helps with centralizing a lot of individuals with sensory stimulation and autism.
These sitting chairs have a harness.
It could be a wheelchair or even trunk stability issues. Children with cerebral palsy who can't sit upright with their core muscles. These zero gravity seats give them the support and stability so that they don't fall out and get hurt.
What started out as a project of heartbreak, April now hopes will lead to awareness and set a new standard.
He was just so sweet and kind that this really does encompass him and inviting everyone to join.
Patty Santos, KSAT 12 News.
Well, if you are planning on voting in the November election, then just a reminder, this is your last day to get registered to vote.
It's easy to register. You can submit your voter registration application in person at the Bexar County Election Department office. That's on Frio Street, and it has to be by 5 p.m. There are a number of places where you can pick up a voter registration application.
Most of our people register to vote at DPS. They can register at social services. Every library has voter registration cards.
Well, once you are registered, you can vote early or wait for Election Day, which is November 5th. Early voting starts on October 21st and will run through November 1st, including the weekend. So registered voters can vote at any polling site during the early voting period. We're ready to take another walk down the yellow brick road. Still ahead, SA Live speaks with the man who wrote the newest chapter in the story of The Wizard of Oz.
And let the games begin. Coming up, we'll show you how the Spurs are kicking off their season by helping a good cause.
Well, can you believe it? The San Antonio Spurs preseason is finally here and officially kicks off tonight.
I can't believe it. It's wild that it's already happening. The team has partnered with the South Texas Blood and Tissue Center to offer free tickets to their Wednesday night game if you donate blood. So our Devin Karp explains why he does his part to help out.
While there may not be a basketball game going on at the Frostbank Center right now, there is still some pretty important work to San Antonio. I'm donating blood right now, and you can too, for a chance to get some free Spurs tickets.
The South Texas Blood and Tissue Center is hosting a blood drive today at the Frostbank Center in order to help our area meet the demand for blood donations. Organizers say there's always a high need for San Antonio, but as the city continues to expand and the holiday season approaches, they'll start to run low on what they have.
Right now, we're averaging about 350 to 400 units of blood, short of the 500 to 600 that we need a day to adequately supply the 48 counties, over 100 hospitals and clinics that we serve. So the need is great. The need is always great.
If you donate blood today, you'll receive 2 free tickets to Wednesday night's Spurs game. If you donate platelets, you'll get 4 free tickets.
The South Texas Blood and Tissue Center is going to be here today until 3 o'clock. All you need to do show up is make sure you drink plenty of water, have a meal before you arrive, bring a photo ID, and you'll be all set. I'm Devin Karp, KSAT 12 News.
Well, the Spurs get their preseason started tonight against the Oklahoma City Thunder. Tip-off is at 7 p.m. at Frostbank Center.
The KSAT sports team will be live from there at 5 and 6, so be sure to join us for our first Spurs pregame of the year. Wednesday, the Orlando Magic comes to town, followed by the Utah Jazz on Saturday.
And I believe by 7 p.m. it will not be as hot.
It will not. We'll be probably right around 90 degrees by about 7 o'clock, but temperatures will be able to fall into the 80s after the sun goes down, so not as bad, even though it is going to be a toasty afternoon, especially for early October's standards. 95 the forecast high temperature. Again, that is 10 degrees above the average if that verifies, and 4 degrees shy of the record high for the day of 99 that was set back in 1937. Looking ahead, 90s continue for the foreseeable future, still having to hold off a little bit and wait for a more noticeable cold front to push through south central Texas, but at least mornings will trend cooler. Another check at that forecast coming up after the break. Well, welcome back, everyone. We continue to monitor Hurricane Milton, and I actually want to get you another look at the system because we just got the 1 p.m. update in early from the National Hurricane Center, and Milton continues to strengthen. Winds have now strengthened to 170 miles per hour sustained. Here's a look at that hurricane right now just to the west of the Yucatan Peninsula in the southwestern Gulf of Mexico. Still moving off to the east at about 9 miles per hour, and again, it is churning over the warm waters of the Gulf of Mexico. Water temperatures in the low to mid 80s. So that is just one of the things that Milton is going to be able to use to keep that Category 5 strength going into Tuesday morning as it nears the northern coast of the Yucatan Peninsula. Then it takes more of a turn farther up to the north as well as the east, potentially still a Category 4 hurricane by Wednesday morning. It is still expected to weaken slightly, still a very powerful and dangerous hurricane by the time it makes landfall near the Tampa Bay area by Wednesday evening. Then it pushes across the Florida Peninsula and works its way into the western Atlantic by Thursday morning. We will, of course, be monitoring the storm surge, which could peak in the 8 to 12 feet range near Tampa Bay, stretching down to Fort Myers as well. Hurricane watches continue for areas in more of that brighter pink. Tropical storm watches on either side, even stretching up to the Gainesville and even near the Tallahassee area, which, if you can remember, that's close to where Hurricane Helene made landfall almost 2 weeks ago. So we'll continue to keep you posted on that over the next several days as Milton does near the Sunshine State. Meanwhile, out in the Atlantic, post-tropical cyclone Kirk, this was a very powerful hurricane now working farther up into the northern Atlantic. Hurricane Leslie, as of right now, this does not look to pose a threat to the lower 48, but we'll continue to keep tabs on it. The National Hurricane Center also highlighting an area out in the far eastern Atlantic, just off of the coast of Africa, giving it a small 30% chance for tropical development over the next 7 days. By the way, if that were to happen, the next name on the list is Nadine, followed by Oscar, Patty, Raphael, and Sarah. Meanwhile, back here at home, still plenty of sunshine expected out there this afternoon. Warmer than average daytime highs will continue to be the name of the game over the next several days. 95 degrees, the forecast high temperature by about 4 to 5 p.m. If you're stepping out out for any evening plans. 90 degrees is expected by 7 p.m. as we were talking about a little bit earlier in the newscast, even out to the Frost Bank Center. And then we'll see those temperatures fall into the mid 80s by about 9 o'clock. Overall, you can expect those daytime highs to climb into the low to mid 90s for most of us across South Central Texas. So again, this will continue to be the theme over the next several days. We may be able to trim off a few degrees into next weekend, but still hot with low 90s in the forecast. Looking forward to those cooler mornings though. Step out after the sun comes up for a few hours, cup of coffee on the front porch, take the dog for a walk before we really start to see those temperatures warm up into the afternoon, guys.
And then switch back to iced coffee.
Yes, I was going to say.
Yes, exactly.
We'll definitely take advantage of that. Thank you, Mia. Well, coming up, a news story in the wonderful world of Oz was written right here in the Alamo City. So SA Live's Fiona Gorostiza meets the man behind the story next. Well, it is a magical collaboration across generations. And did you know the Wizard of Oz author's great-grandson lives right here in San Antonio?
It's an incredible connection. He wrote the new adventure about the wonderful world of Oz, and Fiona Gorostiza from SA Live sat down with him to chat about it.
Step into a world where courage, brains, and a dash of cheese create magic. In the book, The Hidden Magic of Oz, L. Frank Baum's whimsical legacy gets a cheesy twist. So get ready for a good time filled with enchanting adventures. And joining us now is author Richard L. Baum. Thank you so much for being here. Now, you are the great-great-grandson of L. Frank Baum of the Wizard of Oz, right?
That is correct, and I want to thank you for inviting me. It's a thrill to be here. And growing up, everybody, when they would hear that, they were like, "You're kidding, you're kidding." But of course, I was just another kid. You know, I'd never really put all that much weight on it, if you will.
And this book that you've done, this kind of came about because you discovered something. Tell me, what was your first reaction when you stumbled upon your great-great-grandfather's poem? Did it feel like finding a hidden treasure?
Well, it did, because first off, we were like, well, we've never seen this before. And the more we looked around, we realized this is something that nobody has really seen before, or certainly the mass general public hasn't seen it. And we're like, we ought to do something with it.
And you did.
And we did. So
and tell us a little bit about the story.
Well, so the poem is essentially a thank you note to somebody in the neighborhood that gave him this wonderful gift of cottage cheese. And so we had to create sort of a context for kind of highlighting and celebrating the poem. So we came up with some characters. Jack is one of the caricatures. Imogene is a talking living cow. And what's novel about that is when L. Frank Baum realized that he could design and create a play. And that was a big deal, you know, to take the book and create a play, but you can't in 1900 they have a Toto running around on the stage. So he created a new character called Imogene the cow. So Imogene the cow is Jack's best friend, and they get into a little bit of mischief. There's a neighbor who is very understanding and very kind. Jack isn't sure if he should tell his mom about what happened, but then he gets up the courage to tell her what happened, and she said, well, that's a good thing that you're being honest about it. We need to go and talk to the neighbor. Well, the neighbor, as it turns out, seems like he's maybe a wizard. It's about courage, it's about honesty, it's about kindness. I mean, there's so many sort of radiating messages through all the books. Ride the coattails of all the rage around the Wicked franchise. Right. And so we wanted to create a connection, and we realized, wow, what better connection than finding this poem that we don't think anybody has seen and creating a new story and getting it out there. So now it's like, well, now what?
Well,
how do you actually sell a book? I mean,
what's next for you?
Well, we're hoping that we get more exposure. But we have some other things coming. There's going to be another book or two that's sort of the same theme, because, you know, Jack and Imogene, they're mischievous.
And you'll be at the Twig Bookshop this weekend, right?
We are going to be there at 10:30 on Friday.
Where can folks find the book?
Well, they can find it on Amazon. We have a website, thehiddenmagicofOz.com.
Thank you so much. For more information on the Hidden Magic of Oz and author Richard L. Baum, all you have to do is head to our website, salive.com, and click on the As Seen on SA Live tab, or just scan that QR code on your screen.
Well, another reminder, the SA Lives airs weekdays at 10 a.m. on KSAT 12. You can scan the QR code right there on your screen for more arts, culture, food, and fun.
Celebrating San Antonio is what they're all about.
Yeah.
We'll be right back.
Don't forget to join us at Hemisphere Park on October 19th for Light the Night to celebrate, honor, and remember people impacted by blood cancer. Hundreds of lanterns will illuminate the sky with hope and honor.
KSAT reporter Daniela Ibarra will MC the opening ceremony. If you'd like to support Team KSAT in celebrating and remembering patients, just scan that QR code on your screen.
We're hoping that the weather will work out for them on October 19th.
Hopefully by that point, you know, we will at least have gotten one slightly better cold front in, but we'll keep tabs on it.
All right. Well, we'll be patient, Mother Nature. Just waiting on you.
Thank you so much for watching, and have a great afternoon.